looking position for IT administrator in Netherlands. So hopefully we'll see maybe promote one of them. We have an intern. If he does good, then probably apply him. Did you guys? Did you get pretty good increases before? I did. That was my first increase in 10 years.
Oh, looking.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'd like to open the meeting this evening, Public Services here at the City Council Chambers, Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024, and it is a little after 6. Roll call, please.
Alderman Sherry Pickering.
Here.
Eve Ludwig.
Present.
Tricia Teague.
Present.
Robert Williams.
Present.
Darren York.
Present.
John Cooper.
Here.
Chairman Rick Streving.
Here.
7 present.
7 present, thank you. We have item number 2, approval of the minutes for 11/28 of 23. I'll need a motion and a second, please, to accept.
So moved. Second.
Is there any questions, any changes? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We have item number 3, the approval of the agenda. We will be removing 10B, 1 and 2 this evening. Some paperwork didn't get quite done on one of them, and the other one's husband had surgery, so we'll receive that later on in the month.
Would you
So-
say 10B, 1, 2?
10B, 1 and 2.
Okay, didn't catch.
So I'll need a motion and a second to approve the agenda as changed.
So moved.
Any questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Puts us to audience comments.
Don't have any cards. Did anyone wish to speak this evening?
Mrs. Barcott, the floor is yours.
Overruled.
Yeah. All right, chairman's comments. Glad to see everybody made it through the ice and the weather we've had, and we're sorry to hear about John Cooper's mother. John, we're very sorry. Puts us item number 6. Approval of payrolls for 1/19 of 24. I'll need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any questions on the payrolls? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague. Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Cooper.
Yes.
Pickering.
Yes.
Streving.
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. Motion carries. Puts us item number 7, approval of vouchers payables. We have a special run for 1/22 of 24 and a regular run for 1/23 of 24. Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any questions on the vouchers payables? If not, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Teague.
Yes.
Alderman Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Cooper.
Yes.
Pickering.
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Streving.
Yes.
7 yes.
Yes, thank you. Number 8, items, puts it on number 8, the city clerk's report. Lisa Monson, clerk, and her item of information.
Thank you, Chairman. Just wanted to report the office has been gathering information for the listing that I submit to the Vermillion County Clerk's Office for the annual Statement of Economic Interest forms. So everyone will be receiving those soon. And we're continuing our weekly meetings with CitizenServe. That is who we're going to go with for our new business license software. And the liquor ordinance rewrite has been submitted to Mayor Williams for his review. We hope to bring that to the Public Works Committee and the Public Services Committee as well in February. So that's all I have.
Anybody have anything for Lisa? Any questions? Lisa? Community Relations, we put this under Ashton Greer, the Administrator.
Good evening. You guys have before you a resolution for approving.
Administrator, they have to make a motion. and
Oh,
second.
sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
9A, we have a resolution approving an application to National Endowment for the Arts for an NEA grants for arts projects. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I will need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on this? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Cooper.
Yes.
Pickering.
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Streving.
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, motion carries. Puts us to items of information and Ashton Greer's monthly report. Ashton?
Hi. Okay, so the resolution that you just approved, I'll get to that in my report, but I'm very excited about it. I did include a report for you guys tonight. I printed it out. I sent it to you just, I think, yesterday. I'm sorry for the delay in that. Vice Mayor Teague has asked me to provide monthly reports to you for the department. So moving forward, I will always do that in your packet, and I'll do my very best to be here to report on them as well. There's a lot of information in here to cover, as you can see, but I will just touch on some of the higher priority items that we have going on. You can see our First Friday's updates. We have some really exciting events coming up. Our Folklore Progressive Dinner is sold out on February 2nd. Danville's Got Talent is coming up on March 1st. We're halfway through our auditions, and we have some incredible talent. Spring Bingo is a new event this year that we have coming up on April 5th at Temple Plaza. So this bingo event will be bingo for the adults, but we'll also have like the Easter Bunny and a lot of children's themed activities as well. The report that was put out by Studio GWA highlighted some really important facts about First Fridays that I included in here for you. But you can see that the First Fridays in November, December, April, and May all had nearly 8,000 visits. Visits to downtown Danville on an average day are anywhere between 1,000 and 4,000. So you can see that it's really bringing and driving people into the district. Other events going on, we have our Neighborhood Association Breakfast. It's set for Saturday, April 27th at Harrison Park Clubhouse. We are seeking guest speakers right now and interesting topics for our neighborhood associations. With the Fall Festival this year, we're our 49th year, which is very exciting. Our 50th annual Fall Festival is approaching, and we'd really like to make that special. Our car show has informed us that they are not participating moving forward, so it's kind of a challenging thing, and we're looking forward to trying to find something that's as interesting for our citizens, such as a tractor show. We've made some calls on that. You may have seen with the commercial news, we have a new feature, Moments with the Mayor. Those articles are coming out monthly, and I've been really enjoying them. I Am You Are We Are Vermilion County is going strong. We have several videography projects going on. You can read about those there. We also have a request to include a new article in the Vermilion Advantage magazine monthly. So first up, I'm going to approach our blight strategy. I've been meeting with different people in the city and gathering information about the number of structures that we've demolished in the last 5 years and our strategy moving forward. I think it's important to inform the citizens on why we're doing it the way that we're doing it. We have our ongoing things that we do, such as social media updates, Text My Gov, press release assistance, job opening promotion, etc. Right now, as you know, we're going through our rebrand process. Our logo competition wraps up tomorrow, and our top 5 logos will be going to city leadership, our division heads for review and discussion. The final logo will be chosen and announced on February 1st. We're hoping that the logo complements our city seal. It will not replace it. We're taking a multifaceted approach to rolling out our brand. So speaking engagements, presentations, radio interviews, commercials, billboards, traveling billboards, a mural series, which is what the grant application is for, neon signs, website design, mobile app design, etc. You can kind of read about that through this report and all the things going on. It's a lot of behind the scenes work, and then I think in the spring it'll kind of all hit us in the face. But right now, it's a lot of just setting the stage for it. We have a few secured mural sites for our mural project. So a rusty overpass over 115. You guys know what or over 150. It's owned by the railroad. You kind of can't miss it coming into town. It's pretty hideous overpass. We're hoping on gaining permissions to paint that, to put a mural on there. So we're working, Sam and I are working on this, mostly Sam, but it's going to be a very long process. So we're thinking 2025 at the earliest. We have a agreement to put a mural at Town Center. At the YMCA, they've agreed as well as Habitat for Humanity, their board has agreed. Other locations are mapped out, but we don't have permissions yet. This may be a moot point because I have financial limitations with our budget. The biggest hurdles would be my time and then the funding for murals. We are considering a crowdfunding approach, and we're considering approaching local foundations and businesses for sponsorships for murals. We already talked about the grant, but basically Downtown Danville Inc., the Visitors Bureau, the Public Library, Vermilion Advantage, and the city are coming together to do an Arts and Alleys program. The idea is that the alleys in our downtown area are a little bit, they're a little run down. They're not very well lit, and there's a lot that we could do to make them prettier, to make them more appealing to draw visitors and to make them safer. So we put our heads together and we came up with a grant opportunity, which will also reflect our brand, as all of the applications for murals and art projects must reflect possibilities in Danville, which goes with our tagline. So $50,000 would come from our collaborative, $50,000 from the grant, and then a 50-50 matching grant program would put $200,000 of art installations in our alleys. I'm very excited about this. I really hope that we get the grant. Neighborhood association support is ongoing. We're planning the spring breakfast, and right now I am writing a neighborhood associations matching grant program. You guys approved a $10,000 increase in our line item for neighborhood associations, and we'll put this towards grants. The idea is that there's a lot of projects going on or things that could be going on in neighborhoods that are maybe too small for the city to become engaged in, but they're still really important. So it's a way for neighbors to know each other, to take pride in their communities, and for the city to use our dollars to support them. It's a matching grants program, so they would need to match either with funds or with volunteer hours. My goal for year one is 4 $2,500 matching grants in different neighborhoods throughout the city. Downtown Danville updates. I represent the city on the Vermilion Heritage Foundation Board of Directors as well as on the Downtown Danville Inc. Board of Directors. These are both pivotal organizations to the health of our downtown. There's a lot going on at both organizations right now. Really big things going on. It's been a privilege to be involved. Other projects in front of you, you have our corporate membership program rebrand. It's complete. Open enrollment is right now through April 1st. And there is a potential for our department to support the urban forestry grant. So through marketing and advertising, we're not sure exactly what level we'll be involved in yet, but we hope to support this initiative as well. That's all I got.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Greer? Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
Puts us to item number 10, Finance. Ashton Macy is the comptroller. 10A, we have an ordinance amending section 39.07 for the city code pertaining to compensation for municipal employees. This is paperwork at the meeting. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I will need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on
Yeah,
this?
what are we doing?
So this afternoon I did email out, and it should be on your Dropbox. It won't be in the packet, so you would have to back out of the agenda packet and go back into the Dropbox, and there should be 4 documents there. One is the ordinance that amends chapter 39.07, the compensation chart for municipal employees. The second document will be the actual chart that represents what the pay grades would be for each employee and what the individual pay would be for our specific employee. So like for comptroller, for example, the pay grade would be on there, so minimum, mid, maximum, and then what the actual salary would be. This is the wage chart that accompanies the fiscal year 24-25 budget. So everything that is in this wage chart was represented in the budget that was approved in December, except for one exception, which I'll hand that off in a moment. And then the other 2 attachments were, I went ahead and just put in for your reference the salary and benefit table from the adopted budget. And then the 4th attachment is the last wage chart that was approved by the city council, just for your point of reference. Typically, there's very minor tweaks from the last version to the current version, but since we are doing away with classification numbers and introducing pay grades 1 through 16, I thought I would just instead kind of show you what the last one is, what the current one is, so it's easier to compare side by side. You'll notice the salary and benefit table, if you remember from the budget, I had it color coded. So like the aqua color was being brought to the minimum of the new pay grade per the compensation study. The light blue, definitely more a blue color, was being changed, either brought to the minimum plus a years of service adjustment or just a years of service adjustment depending on whether salary fell. And then the green was a new position being introduced. For example, 2 new building maintenance workers, 2 rental code enforcement inspectors, those kinds of positions. So that's what's in there. I thought this would be a good time to bring it because there's 2 weeks from now to the next city council. That gives an extended amount of time before it comes back to vote for review.
This is items of information, I assume, then?
No, this isn't.
Are we voting on this?
We're voting to send it to the full council.
And
This
this is
evening.
all related to that, the raises we gave.
What
month
was in the
ago, right?
compensation study is what's reflected in the wage chart, yes.
In regards to that, we gave raises out somebody over 20 years and then 10 through 20. Is that a one-time deal or is that going to be a yearly thing?
That's a one-time salary increase, but it wasn't, so it's not a bonus where they get that one time. It was a salary increase. to catch up for years of being underpaid. Well, decades of being underpaid. Did you want to?
Yeah, if there's no other questions about in general what's on here, there is one item that was not in the city budget, and I'll hand that over to Chief Yates to discuss.
That's reference to
The
the
intel analyst.
intel analyst, the crime intel analyst. I can go over it now, or we can go over it during the items of information. I guess it'd have to
They
go
have
now.
to vote, yeah.
Yeah, because they got to vote.
Chief,
Okay.
can you lower your microphone, please? Thanks.
Excuse me. I put out some information on the shared drive, and it had a justification handout. It had a job description, and it had some other documents based on different requests that we've had over the years. We're moving into and we've been there for a while, situation and era, and I don't think it's going away. It's not going away. It's only going to get more involved, where data, and not only the collection of the data, but the ability to analyze it and put it in a workable, usable summary or item in order for officers to be able to take that information. And I think we've all talked about intelligence and data-driven policing. We're able to collect that data, but sometimes it looks like something that it's not without the analysis of it. This was something that was requested back in 2000, before my time as chief. Years ago, it was resubmitted to me whenever I became chief. Obviously, I think you guys all of you have taken the journey with me. We've done a lot of things, and we weren't at that point to where we could tackle that then. We are at that point now, and that's why I'm requesting the position. As far as the budget's concerned, it will not require any type of budget amendment for this year because we do not have full strength within our officers. We're at 69, and remember with the District 118, which will start in actually the next fiscal year, but we're budgeted for 70. I would not be truthful to say that I'm not going to ask for that additional position at some point, but that'll be based off the financial circumstances of the city then. But we believe that, and this is something that we've discussed between all deputy chiefs, as well as our administrations manager who spent over a decade in criminal investigations as a detective sergeant. We believe that the number of detectives that we have now, plus one intel analyst, crime intel analyst, will be more efficient and more effective than adding that last detective vacancy. In order for us to even add that last detective vacancy, we're going to have to hire an officer. The next time we can hire an officer and send them to PTI is in May of 2024. By the time they get out of the academy, that's going to be late September. By the time they are able to hit the streets, that's going to be February to March of 2025. Therefore, I think now is the time that it'd be the most logical and economically feasible to put that position, and their pay grade would be slightly less, but it would not exceed a base salary of a police officer. It's a very competitive position. If you bring someone in at a level that you'll be setting them up to train for another department. So we have to be very careful on that. But it will not exceed the amount that's already budgeted for the officer that we cannot hire and have trained and ready for the street in the amount within this fiscal year or even halfway through the next. So it's not taken away from any of our patrol resources. It's not taken away from any of our special unit resources that we're continually building on, which I can cover more later. But it's something that we're there. And if we're not doing this, we're doing things that have not been the most efficient or effective in the past. Now, what we have is we have detectives that are able to take certain things that an analyst would do, but that's similar to, I tiled my bathroom this weekend. I can do it, but it took me about 5 times longer than what it'd take a professional. And it didn't probably turn out quite as good. We have the same thing when we have detectives. going away from what detectives do and what detectives are very good at and doing something that they're not very good at or just having to learn. It's taken away from what they're doing. So it's actually handicapping the numbers that we have. This was something that we discussed thoroughly with our detectives. We discussed it thoroughly with our deputy chiefs as well as our administration's division manager. And we all came to the same agreement that this is something that would be one of the biggest advancements that we've done with the criminal investigations division since I've been on the department, I believe. That's my opinion. I spoke to a couple of you outside of here last time, letting you know that I was going to bring it up, make sure that you were aware of this. Is there any questions on any of the stuff that I handed out? That justification is probably more of a thorough summary of what we're doing. But it's not quite, it's not completely a totality of everything. Because I think when we get this position going, that person, if we select the right person for this job, they're going to figure out things that we don't even realize that we're capable of doing with the technology. We're talking about our LPRs, our intersection cameras, leads, NCIC, you know, every tool that we have, our, you know, phone systems, and putting it all together and making it workable. Almost every one of our cases are intertwined with our technological tools in solving them and protecting our community.
Alderman Cooper, you had a question?
During the hiring process or whatever, do you get a lot of lateral response?
Lateral, we advertise lateral. We haven't, I would say that historically, we're somewhere around less than 50% of those that we bring in lateral are still with us and within that time of a reasonable career. Some are very good. Some of them are leaving another department for a reason. I don't believe in giving bonuses because if we would give bonuses to anybody, it'd be the ones that stuck with us the last 5 years, 10 years. If you want to come and be a Danville Police Department, it's because you care about our community. So, but we have not had very many laterals. The ones that we have and we kept, they're good ones. But there's just as many that are no longer with us.
I mean, it'd be a big advantage over the PTI. I mean,
Absolutely. But like I said, they have to meet the standards and then they still have to go through our training, which is 17 weeks field training. And I have absolutely nothing against laterals. I want them. I want good laterals.
didn't know if there's that much interest or not.
Well, there's a lot of competition.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
I mean,
I see it.
There's places, $20,000 bonuses. Saw one in Seattle. And it's just crazy. So.
Is there any other questions for the chief? Yes.
Not for Chief, but for Ashland.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if it's for Ashland specifically or anybody who might have the answer, which is, does the ordinance change have to be done by a specific time frame or deadline?
Good question. So what the majority of the adjustments are for May 1, 2024. So for those, we would have time. However, included in here, as you read through the ordinance, I had 2 more notes for you, and this was one of them. If you read through here at the bottom of the ordinance, it says these salary ranges and salaries are effective May 1, 2024, other than those designated by an asterisk. And I didn't count them. I should have counted them. There's a handful that have an asterisk by the title to start sooner. One of them would be the, what is it called? The wellness manager, the person who's going to manage the pool. We need to hire that sooner than May 1. If we hope to open the 3rd week of May, they need to be here and learning the new system and the new chemicals. City plumber, same reason, that's associated with the opening of the pool. There's 2 positions at Harrison Park Golf Course. We'd had recent turnover with positions that are vacant that need to be filled before the golf season starts, but honestly, as soon as possible. So it just doesn't make sense to hire people in at a non-market rate and then maybe limit our applicant pool if we're going to be bringing those positions up to a different rate anyway, and then they would just not receive they would not receive any sort of increase at May 1 because they've only been here a couple months. They would ride that same salary amount until the following May of 2025 if they're still with us. So there's a handful of those, and that's kind of technically, no, it's not till May of 2024, but I'd like to just get this addressed so those other divisions can hire the people that they need to hire in a timely manner. Excuse me. And then the other note that I had is there's a few that are in the budget, which I provided the salary benefit table that you won't see highlighted in the wage chart because they're union positions. So for example, item 6, I think it's 16A this evening, is an agreement with Labor's Local 703. That's to add that city plumber position per chapter 39.07 ordinance. The section D tabs or pages are updated when the agreements with the unions come through city council. So the only two sections that are really being amended are Part B and Part C. Part B being non-union employees and Part C, part-time seasonal and temporary employees. All of the other union-related positions will be coming through in a separate agreement like the one in 16A today for your specific review and approval. And I think we have one with IEB, EW for the rental inspectors that's in the works that'll be coming soon as well. So last note, I would just like to apologize that I had to provide this at the meeting. I had hoped to get it on the agenda. That's why it was on there. But maybe you don't all know this. I parent 3 children in between sicknesses and school closures the last 4 business days. It was just a struggle to get it done. So I appreciate your patience, and hopefully the 2 weeks from now to city council is sufficient.
Is there any-
So all the asterisk positions are new ones, apparently.
They're new or they're current positions that are vacant that we need to fill. And it just doesn't make sense to hire in at a non-marketable rate because we want the best for our community, and if we're gonna take it to that in 4 months, we may as well.
Is there any other questions for Ashley? If not, roll call on the ordinance.
Alderman York,
Yes.
Cooper,
No.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
No.
Williams,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
5 yes.
5 yes, thank you. Puts us to item 10.1 now, personnel monthly report, and 10.2, the video gaming tax versus casino tax analyst report. Ashley?
Are there any questions on the personnel report before I get into the casino tax and wagering video gaming tax? Yes, Ms. Teague.
Actually, I gotta get back to my agenda. I don't know if this is a question for you or for somebody else, but I noticed that.
Wait,
Is it right
go
there?
ahead, take your time.
So I noticed we have a opening for the code enforcement inspector, but no, I don't see it listed as a open position. So my question is, are we planning to fill that position? So it might not be a question for you. Are we planning to fill that position? That's my first question, and then I might have a follow-up depending on the answer.
Yes.
Yes, there was an open code inspector position. An offer has been made. I was going to report a little bit on that, and I'll save some of it. And we have an acceptance.
Okay.
Person starts February 5.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question on that report.
Okay.
All right. Also included in your packet is a gaming tax analysis. I had an inquiry from a local news outlet that was calling to ask about how our video gaming tax has performed in comparison to the casino opening. And so I had to spend some time compiling that information. So I thought, if I have to spend time on this, I might as well share it at committee. So there's 3 pages to this report. If you look at the first chart on the first page, this is all video gaming tax we've received and since calendar year 2018. So quite a few years of data there. I have it broken down by calendar year, but I also have information presented in fiscal year as well, in case you're interested. I like to use color coding to help review information. So the various colors, you all know that our fiscal year runs May 1 to April 30th. That color correlates with the fiscal year total, just to kind of help look at that easier. You'll see that our monthly average in 2018 was $25,000 and some change per month. That has grown over the years to calendar year 2023. The monthly average was $47,952, so quite an increase over 5 years or so. I also have the two charts below that is the casino wagering tax and the casino admissions tax. So every time someone walks through the door at our local casino, they have to pay a $3 admissions tax. We receive $1 of that. So that's kind of a nice little comparison. That's a dollar-to-dollar comparison of how many people have been to our local casino. So you'll see that in December, they received, 21,298 people walked through the door at the Golden Nugget. And then the wagering tax is obviously on the bets that are placed on the interior of the casino. If you'll go to the second page, this chart is showing video gaming tax revenue for the fiscal years outlined, so kind of a visual representation of the information. The yellow line with various data points is from 2020. You'll see that there was $0 from June to August. The Illinois Gaming Board and Illinois Liquor Commission shut down all places that you could do video gaming and video gaming in general from May 16th through June 30th of 2020. So that obviously impacted our video gaming tax revenue. So that's why you see those outliers there on the chart. But it just kind of shows you year over year and different trends associated with video gaming tax revenue that are non-casino. Then on the third page, which I think is what most people are interested in and what the news outlet was interested in, is 3 bars comparing video gaming tax, the admissions tax, and the wagering tax. The question that was presented when I started compiling this information was, did the casino opening negatively impact your other gaming tax revenues, or are other gaming places hurting? And you can see here that while you see the casino wagering tax, steeply climb up and to the right within this chart, the video gaming non-casino tax revenue, while it does dip slightly in July and August, it does remain steady further into the calendar year. And what I would say is that if you look at the chart just above on the second page, every year, video gaming tax revenue peaks around May, is lower in June, and then levels out July through the end of the calendar year. So you can make your own conclusions on why that happens. Yeah, I just wanted to point that out. And then our 2023 monthly average for the video gaming tax is the highest it's ever been, and that's when the casino was open the majority of the calendar year. So I just wanted to share that information with you. I know that I've received that question multiple times. How has the casino impacted our gaming tax revenue? And that's public record. So this sales tax is confidential information, but gaming tax can be found on the Illinois Gaming Board's website. You can look at any casino or gaming parlor in the state of Illinois. It's all public record. So.
And the other thing that isn't is the pot. Is that
Cannabis
correct?
is not public record.
Yes,
No.
yes. Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ashley? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Puts us item number 11. Fire, Aaron Marcotte, Fire Chief, items of information, his monthly report.
Yep, it's been a couple of months since we've seen you. A couple of cool things we had in December. One was a grant we got received from the people that provide our workman's comp insurance. So they brought in a company that worked with the firefighters to work on specific injuries and also how to warm up better and how to rehabilitate injuries better so that we can reduce, hopefully, some of that down the line. Cool company. They work with a lot of NFL players and a lot of athletes. So it was really nice to have that kind of level of expertise in there. Actually, really, and a lot of guys were realizing how they could actually directly impact some of the injuries that they had and stuff going on. So that was neat. We also had a company come in on the national speaking circuit, kind of met with our firefighters and discussed essentially how I'm doing or how we're doing as a fire department, how we're meeting them, what's good, what's bad, and then taught them how to how they can be leaders in their own right, like how to carry yourself and conduct yourself in the fire service. So that was kind of a cool class we had as well. Other than that, it was kind of makeup training for us in the month of December. January, we kicked into our kind of what we call compliance training, but our HIPAA, our discrimination, sexual harassment, all that good training. Simultaneously, we're kind of conducting a series of meetings. We call it kind of we try to model ourselves after our baseball season, so it's kind of the winter meetings. So setting out the calendar for 2024, finding out again from the membership what they want for training, what we did well, what we did bad, what we can improve on. So that's kind of what goes on right now. One of the things for OSHA is we have to put out a 4-year calendar at all times about our training plan and how we plan to get all these wide range of topics covered. So they're helping this year. We're trying to involve everybody to help develop that calendar so everybody has a little more buy-in and things like that to that calendar. So that's ongoing. We also had Schaumburg and Schaumburg, met them at the Danville Community College Labor Management meeting. Just started talking about solar power, and we realized that's probably something that we need to learn how to do. And they have a terrific individual. We weren't sure what we were going to get, but this kid came in and had tailored it to the firefighters and everything else about the dangers of being on your roof for us, the dangers with the solar power fields and everything like that. So much so that our guys are trying to get him recruited into teaching for the Fire Service Institute. Yeah, he was that good. So we've been doing that over the last few days. Very interesting, very good. Nice of them. Completely. We bought him lunch, and he's there doing it for us. So it's nice. 2 of our new firefighters went to an EMS academy. One thing that was causing the slowdown to getting these guys on shift or counting against manning was the EMT was a semester-long process. So we found a place in Indiana that does that in 3.5 weeks. It's like an actual academy that they spent the night there. They worked almost 10-hour days doing the whole thing, so they compress it down and teach them. Really cool class. Also, they bring in people from different countries to teach it and get that sped up. So if you remember about a month or so ago, you guys approved Vermilion County Works, and then they paid for that training and stuff like that. So that's already kicking in, and anything that's required of our training now, we can kind of apply to them to get that paid for. So that was nice. And then you got back yesterday. One of the programs I talked about in the past few months was the Step Up program, we call it, but it's essentially getting the firefighter. So when we look at firefighters, we try to go by either experience and or education. If you don't have the experience, we try to manage that with education to get you on the faster. So we had 2 of our graduates, firefighter Devin Heinrichs and Lucio Torres, are the first 2 to complete that class. They go through a process of make sure they can do everything administratively that we'd expect an officer to do. We make sure that they can do, they get the job shadow for a few days, so an officer can mentor them and watch them, and then they go through a vetting process with me and the other officers that'll supervise them. So at the end of the day, we say yes or no, that they're ready, and then they get to ride above rank, which helps us reduce overtime, gives us more people to pick from to ride above rank and things like that. So we hope to develop that all the way up the chain. So that's kind of new for us, so it's working pretty good. During our time, we had 1 member retire. It was Lowell Hudson with 25 years of service with the fire department. In the last contract, we made a change with the city about the CBA, which also allowed firefighters to notify us of their retirement. So we have 3 of those. We were notified in November that 3 guys were leaving in May, which is kind of what we predicted and expected. So we have that, which also then allows us to bring on the new candidates in time. So we've got 3 offers out to them so that they'll be doing that in February. And by the time they're coming out of academy and having all their schools, those guys will be stepping out, and those guys will be stepping in. There'll be no gap, which should also reduce the overtime demand that's created usually from that long drawn out process. So captain's testing process has started and is underway. That list is currently expired, and we'll shortly be doing the lieutenant testing as it's set to expire with the next promotion. We are currently building our annual report, so I hope to have that by either released to you sometime in between or at the next meeting. We'll have our annual report for you guys. Really excited about some of the information we're going to be able to report this year about improvements and things in a lot of categories. We ended with 57 structure fires this year, which was down from 65 the year before. We also had 258 other fire emergencies, just minor deals. That was down also. Overall, though, we were still up by 172 calls for the last year. And we're not off to a good start this year because we've already had 7 in the first 3 weeks of January or whatever. So, and other than that, I wanted to say thank you to the DMT. They've been, during that cold week, they were bringing out warming buses for us, which was very nice. So we appreciate them. And lastly, I finally get to announce the truck is scheduled to be inspected and picked up next week. So we got guys leaving Monday. They're being flown out there by the company to inspect it. make sure everything's okay. They have to visualize a test, make sure the pump's operating, the ladder's operating correctly, and then those guys will drive it back to us sometime next week. We'll have a couple days of training provided by the company. Somewhere we have to get scheduled, and then equipment switch over and things like that. So probably within the month, it'll probably be on the street, hopefully. That's all I got, unless you got questions.
Thank you, Chief. Anybody got any questions for Chief? Thank you. Puts us on number 12, Human Relations, Senator Finch, the Administrator. Items of information, her monthly report.
Good evening, everyone. For the period of December 19th through January 12th, the office handled 8 complaints. Now, keep in mind, that's the week leading up to Christmas, so I guess that's the time for people to not complain, so. And then after Christmas, after the new year, they're not complaining, but believe me, we're in full swing right now. So for the recent complaints, 1 complaint and complaints against city employees and 1 in housing. Old complaints, 2 police complaints, 4 employment complaints, a total of 8 complaints. You have any questions? Just want to say again, thank you all for your support for the King Celebration. I thought it was a good program, a good service. The scholarship winner, everyone was real happy to see the Vari board to win the scholarship. You have any questions? I just want you to mark your calendar for Community Day. We haven't started planning yet, but it's going to be July 14th. That's the 2nd Sunday in July. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Puts us on number 13, Information Technology. Agnell De Silva, Administrator. 13A is a resolution authorizing a budget amendment to fiscal year 2023 through 2024 for the Information Technology Division 020. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for approval. I will need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on this resolution?
Yeah, explain it.
Sure. So Tyler Cashiering is our revenue collection software that we use, and we had that since the last 5 years or so. It has 3 components. We have the Tyler Cashiering software, we have the credit card system, and then the payment gateway. So last year, Tyler Technologies, they reached out to us, say they no longer support our current existing Bridge Pay gateway, so we need to upgrade before October of this year. So we've been looking into some options, trying to figure out, what the best option is for us here. So I reached out to Tyler. They came out with some pricing, and we will be upgrading our Tyler Cashiering software as well as our credit card devices, because those need to be updated. They're only compatible. The existing ones are only compatible with Bridge Pay and not the new payment gateway that we're looking at. The new payment gateway that we're looking at is called Tyler Payments. We don't have the information yet, and I'm working with Ashlyn on that, trying to get some numbers like the transaction fees and things like that. So that we already pay Tyler our current payment gateway. So I'm anticipating some increase there, like with the transaction fee because of Tyler Technologies. So we'll bring that to you at a later date. So what this covers is the software upgrade, the hardware, and the professional services from Tyler Technologies. We had this budgeted for next fiscal year, but because of the deadline, and we have to get on their schedule because they're like 6 months out, to schedule it. So we don't want to miss that date. That's why I want to bring this resolution now and do a budget amendment now. And then Ashlyn said she can do a budget adjustment for the next fiscal year.
So what are we doing? I mean, apparently this was in the budget for next year, right? And then
Yes.
So we're doing an amendment right now, and then what, in May, do a paperwork cleanup on it, or?
What we could do is reduce next year's budget and increase this year's budget and just basically move the expense. But I think what the resolution says is just to increase this year's budget and leave it for next year's incidentals, or just not use it and it go back to reserves at the end of next fiscal year.
Thanks, Ashley.
Any other questions?
Any questions?
If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Cooper?
Yes.
Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Streebing?
Yes.
7 yes.
Yes, thank you. Puts us to 13B, items of information and Agnell's monthly report.
So you should have all received a monthly report that I emailed today, as well as in your packets. Are there any questions on the report?
Is there any questions for Agnell? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
Puts us item number 14, legal, James L. Simon, Corporate Counsel. 14A is an ordinance amending Chapter 163 of the rental housing registration. Make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on this ordinance?
Okay, are we bringing this up to HUD? Are we getting, explain this, I guess. We're hiring 2 rental inspectors, right?
We are planning on hiring 2
Right.
rental housing inspectors, correct?
Okay, is this the guidelines they're gonna be following? Is this what we're doing here?
This is, well, it's a combination. This ordinance provides for those positions. What we hope to have to develop a cyclical inspection process where we inspect every rental unit every 4 years. We're going to have to create the areas, inspection areas, and make sure they're balanced. So no one inspector has more to inspect than the other. So we're going to work with Public Works, Adam All on that, and Rick Brown on that, to put that together. And we'll be able to plot based on our rental registration information where the rental units are and how many are in each rental unit, or how many are in each building. That will start the process. Right now, this ordinance, the way it's drafted, is to provide for that. Now, what are they going to inspect? They're going to inspect interiors. We don't need them to inspect exteriors because we have, are capable and environmental code enforcement inspectors doing that. So they will go in. It's not an unannounced inspection. It will be an arranged inspection with the tenant and the landlord. And they'll go in and they'll basically inspect under the building code, plumbing code, electrical or electricity code, mechanical code, and property maintenance code as well. So that's what they're going to be looking for. They will prepare a report, they will provide it to the landlord, and then they will be rechecked to make sure, there'll be no citations issued at that point, but they'll have the opportunity to correct these various violations, and the time frame for correcting these violations is based on what's recommended in the various codes.
Are we following HUD's guideline?
No.
No.
We're following the property maintenance code, because we're not going to be inspecting HUD properties. Those have their own inspectors. So, Section 8, et cetera, we're not going to be inspecting those. But what we will be, enforcing is our various codes that relate to buildings, in essence.
And when will this take in effect?
Well,
as soon as it's upon passage, or
again, please.
when will this take effect?
Well, this ordinance would take effect May 1.
May 1.
Because you've already passed a budget for the May 1, start of the May 1 fiscal year, and that provides for 2 inspectors.
I guess one of my concerns, and I fully agree with this, is say a tenant, mayor calls any of us, wanting to complain again about the interior or something of this place. They're not on a lease, they're on a month-to-month, which 90% of them probably are. I mean, but does the tenant have any protection or rights to do that? I mean, the protection's what I'm looking at.
It depends on what you mean by protection.
Well,
in other words, can the landlord retaliate?
Which, yeah, and that's a thing, it's going to be an issue.
It is going to be an issue. We already have that as an issue. We already run a rental, our tenant complaint process. Currently, our environmental code enforcement inspectors respond to tenant complaints, and we get them, and they go out and inspect and all. Now, one of the questions on the complaint form, which can be done in hard copy or online, asks if they've received a notice of eviction or a termination of lease in a month-to-month tenancy situation, or a 5-day notice, which is failure to pay rent notice, 5-day notice to quit the premises, or a 10-day notice to quit the premises for violating some other aspect. If they answer yes, and then they are filing this tenant complaint, more often than not, we conclude that the tenant complaint is a retaliation against the landlord. Now, if they file the tenant complaint first, and the landlord then issues one of these notices, there's nothing we can do about it. Landlord has the right. If somebody hasn't paid their rent, they can terminate the lease on 5-day notice. If somebody has done damage, significant damage to the rental dwelling, they can give a 10-day, and they have the right. They always, if they're on a month-to-month, like, as you say, many of them are, they have no protection whatsoever. Their landlord can't be forced to continue renting. Now, this ordinance tries as best as we can within the legal framework that exists, the statutory framework that exists, to balance that out. Because if there is a landlord retaliation, there is provision in this draft ordinance for some fairly onerous obligations on the part of the landlord, including possibly paying for the tenant's move, if there really is a problem, or immediately refunding the tenant security deposit if there is one, first month's rent, that kind of thing. Of course, the tenant will have obligations. They just can't have their brother-in-law pull their trailer up and move them and then submit a $5,000 moving fee and all. So we try to balance it out. But it's the landlord's property. We cannot force them to keep a tenant.
Oh, I know.
Jim, it does include a penalty for retaliation as well, though I believe you all included
Yes.
that. So, and I want to say it's between $1,000 and $4,000, depending upon the severity, but it's definitely included there.
And there would be a hearing on that in city court.
But
And as well as the other penalty, which probably is the most effective threat penalty, is revocation of their rental registration certificate, meaning they can't derive any rental money from that rental unit because they won't be able to rent it. And because we'll know where it is, we'll be able to monitor that.
is that the best the city or we can do to protect a tenant from getting to that point, per se?
Well, I think it probably is legally. The other is the inspections. The cyclical inspections. We note some problems. We give and this is not in response to a tenant complaint. Hopefully the landlord will repair. Otherwise, they're going to have a code violation, just like our environmental code enforcement inspectors issue. And, maybe one day what we'll do is begin to grade these units like they do in Urbana. It's not been successful in Urbana because their inspection process, they wanted a 5 or 6 year inspection process. They're not even meeting a 9-year inspection process. But they only have one, when I was there, they only had one inspector. But they graded the units A through F. And the reason they did that is primarily their audience, which is students and parents who want, or their kids want to live off campus. And so they can look up on their website, oh, this is a D property. We don't want you moving into a D property, or an F property. You won't be able to. They're not allowed to rent those properties and all. So I don't know if we'll get to that. That's a major involvement, because what's the difference between an A property and a B property? We'll have to define those parameters based on all the different provisions in the code.
I don't want it to happen is when a tenant calls me or calls any of us and files a complaint, and 10 days later they get an eviction notice.
Well, if you adopt this ordinance.
Friday.
Well, it's happened. It's happened. The other thing is landlords, it's worked the other way too, by the tenant retaliating about a 5-day notice they received because they just happened not to pay the rent, and they get a 5-day notice, and it can be onerous if we go out and inspect those, if we conclude it's a retaliation against the landlord, because then their units are subject to inspection, where right now they're not.
Well, those are my concerns. I just, you know, like I
Understand,
say, if somebody
that's what
doesn't-
in part motivated Alderwomen Teague and
Yeah.
Pickering have been working with me on this, and that was one of the major issues that we have tried to address. We can't prevent a 5-day, we can't prevent a 10-day, we can't prevent a termination of tenancy based on a month-to-month tenancy, other than that they have a right to 30-day notice, and we can't prevent an eviction. Judge is going to have to make those decisions.
Oh, and I understand that, and like I say, I see 15 or 20 of them every Friday, and it's, you know, it's a lot of times I feel sorry for these people, and
Oh, yeah,
it's,
we do
I
too.
just think they're getting hosed.
Well, there are, every community has those kinds of landlords that take advantage of their tenants,
I
but
think we
yet
got 'em.
don't plow any of the revenue, profits, if you want to call it that, to improving or at least maintaining their rental units.
How many rentals do we have in this town?
I think it's somewhere, I think the mayor told me somewhere around 4,000.
I think we're at about 40 or 45%, so
40 or 45%?
we have around 11,000 houses, so I would say we have around 4,500 rental units.
Okay.
It'll be a major task, and it's going to take a long while to ramp this thing up.
Well, thanks to Sharon and Trish.
And you're gonna do this with how many inspectors?
Well, we are going to start out with 2. That's what the budget is.
And the
And we'll
math that
see
we,
how it goes.
and the math that we did, Chairman, was that it would take every 4 years, basically, to get to every place with that many inspectors. That we do routine inspections, and that's not including complaints, but just to do the regular rotation of inspections, it would be once every 4 years, you're guaranteed an inspection, and then beyond that, when we have complaints as outlined. So also, I want to make sure that I thank former Alderwoman Brown, who is with us this evening, for your efforts in this as well.
Well, I know Ms. Finch is probably gonna have some all year long.
Oh, yeah.
That's a given.
Yes, most definitely.
I just want you to be careful because, you know, back 10 or 15 years ago when we had this, and you had I don't know what you call them, the rental group, I don't know what they're called, what the name of it is now.
Landlord Association.
Landlord Association. And everything got hosed down to the point where it was worthless. The other part of it is, at the time, one of our aldermen had rentals, and they literally run him through the mill for 2 months. It was on college. It was, there was no reason for it. I just don't want to see that happen.
Well, I would hope that I mean, obviously, whether you pass it as written or in any other form is up to the city council. It depends on how strongly they believe in this kind of a program and all.
Well, this was one individual's personal vendetta, and she wanted everything done exactly the way and it was pitiful.
Well, we would hope, I would hope certainly, that the 2 individuals who are selected to fill these positions have ethical, morals and integrity. Nobody's looking to smash landlords. They're a vital component to this community, there's no question about it. But there are also some landlords who don't care to take care of their properties. They just want to milk them, and maybe at some point they'll just let them go. And there'll be just more blight in this city. So we need a balance between the landlords. It maybe because they aren't getting inspected very much in Urbana, but it appears to be their rental registration program is not as expansive as what this is. but it seems to work in Urbana, and I don't know if Champaign has a rental registration program with inspections. I think if this is passed, we will probably be very cutting edge in the state. And the program is run by people, and people can abuse their authority or not. We would hope that they wouldn't abuse their authority.
Yes, Jerry.
In talking to Jim, after going over this, we went over this and there were some things that need to be changed. And it's my understanding that we have to amend the ordinance in order to get this changed tonight, correct, Jim?
Yes, it's been presented as written, and I'll be honest, looking through the changes, I only have one objection to this one change.
So,
That is including, well, no reason to discuss it unless it's been, a motion and a second.
right. So, and I think everyone received this copy. So, I guess I need to make a motion to amend the ordinance 163. Do I need to go through each one of these, or
No, you don't. I mean, if everyone has a
print
copy.
it, present it as a copy? Okay.
Ms. Alderwoman Pickering, Vice Chairman, so what you want to discuss is the 1631A, is that correct? The wording on that, the penalty shall be waived?
Yeah, that's one thing, if we could talk about that before we do the
So,
amendment.
yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So can you explain your concern, and then we can work through that and then hopefully come up with an amendment that'll.
Sure. 16310, penalties for violation, it states the penalty shall be waived once for the first-time offender. I felt like that maybe needs to be clarified, because what if the person has more than one building? What do we do then?
I could see it going both ways. If somebody fails to register their one building and they own 3, it's very likely that they're going to fail to register the other 2. And if we're saying, hey, our purpose is to get these buildings registered, then this one offense, even though it may involve, or 3 offenses may involve a one-time failure to register. So I could see it being for however many buildings if it's the first offense. Once they're registered, they know about rental registration, and they better follow through with renewal of the registration. On the other hand, I could see what happens if somebody has 30 residential rental properties. Presumably, if they're in that kind of a market and they're that big a player, they should know about rental registration. So I could see somebody then saying, well, maybe there should be a penalty for every building that's not registered. I don't have a strong legal view either way. I think if we did the latter from a business standpoint, I think the up-and-coming landlords or landlords who look to grow their business from 2 or 3 units to more, they want to become land barons like some people are already here in Danville, I think you'll hear a hue and cry from them. I didn't know. I've only got 2 units. I didn't know. I should have registered those. But somebody with 30 units or more, I just made up 30. I don't know what the break number would be. I would imagine they've talked with a lot of other landlords about being a landlord in Danville, so they should know about the rental registration ordinance. Again, I have no strong legal opinion either way.
The big thing I think we were trying to avoid here was, if you have someone like a family member, or even, I think Vice Mayor was telling us a story about when she first came to town, and had a property. There might be someone who innocently doesn't know. I can tell you, for example, when my grandmother passed away, this was, 13, 15 years ago, right when we had first started all the rental registration stuff. My parents didn't know, and so they started renting her house out, and then they got a nasty gram from, the city saying, we're going to fine you. Well, these people have just lost their mother, and now you're going to fine them for something that they had no knowledge of. That's very different, I think, or, Vice Mayor Teague's situation, that's very different than somebody who has 30 properties and is taking advantage, you know, so I don't know how we, word-wise, how we bridge that gap, but, you know, I think that's what we, you know, in talking with Vice Chairman Pickering, that was our concern, is that someone you would have a good citizen that's unfairly penalized, right? But then on the converse side, you know, you could have someone who is trying to take advantage of the situation.
My view on the difference between the two is if somebody's going to take, you know, with who one should reasonably believe would know about rental registration, if they're going to take advantage or try to skirt having to register, I mean, I kind of take a recidivist view to all of this, that if they're going to play this game, they're going to play another game, but the next time they're going to get caught on the other game.
Well, with the registration this year, have you changed anything after I made a complaint? I had to come in and pay mine in person. Number one, it wasn't very clear where to go to. It wanted to give me a license for the city of Danville. I didn't need a license, I just needed registration. And the number they give me when I got into it, I ended up getting 3 numbers in less than 10 minutes time for my access code, which did not work on any one of them. The other thing that I had was, and the reason why I come down and paid it in person, they had 2 of my properties listed and not the 3rd. So it wouldn't have done me any good anyway to go through the registration through the computer because they didn't have all my information in it.
You're absolutely right. When it came, what happened is the rental registration information in Excella was converted into CitizenServe. And not all of it, I'd say about 90% of it converted appropriately, but some of it didn't for some reason, and we're working our way through that. We have a problem with the pay part of the system. We were told it would be compatible with what we have here in the city, and it turned out not to be. So we're trying to work through that. As far as the PINs and passwords, I think major corrections on that. We've had the same kind of thing with our property maintenance inspection, and we've worked through most, not all, we're still working through issues. And we knew we would be working through issues, partly because Excella, their software, is not compatible with CitizenServe. It's a different software.
Well, when I thought I was jumping the gun, but I was a little early, was doing this back in December because I was gonna beat the deadline. Well, if I hadn't figured this out early, I probably wouldn't have made the deadline and I'd been fined, so.
This year, we know that there are issues in Kingston, so, you know, we're working with people.
I understand.
So I guess my question is, do we leave it just as offender?
I think you need to have something in there per unit, per rental, something, because that's, what I'm looking at here is pretty vague.
Well,
I don't have the rest of it in front of me, so.
I personally think it needs to be changed to per unit.
Per unit?
Change to what?
Per unit.
Per unit.
Vice Mayor, so the penalty shall be waived once for the first time offense per unit? Or?
Yes. Because the argument can be made as it's written right now that, well, I'm a first-time offender, it's gonna apply to all my units.
Yes.
And if I just went and bought up somebody else's.
Garbage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna use that word, but yes. You know, somebody decided to dump a bunch of properties, they put them in a package. They sold 10 properties, I bought all 10 properties. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Are you, okay, so I guess I'm not clear on what you're saying. You're saying that they should have that waiver for all those properties?
No, I'm saying it needs to be considered individually per property.
Okay, that's
Property
right, but this is saying waived.
Well, the reason why we use the word offender was because of that exact reason. If I own multiple properties, I don't want to give somebody another chance to not pay again or to not register again. So, because if you do it per unit, if I own 30 units and I get a then I would get a waiver for each one of them. But if I'm the offender, if I'm, Ricky Williams Properties and I do it one time, then I don't get another chance. If anytime I would do it again, then I would be,
Because you're no longer ignorant of the situation.
right.
I'll be honest, I'm confused when you say per unit. If somebody has bought a 10-unit building or a 6-unit building and they don't register every one of those units, and this is the first time they've bought, other than maybe a single property, will will they get a waiver for one of those 6 units or whatever I said, 10 units? Or will they get a waiver because they didn't know they failed to do it when they got this building?
So my question to what you just said is, when a person owns a multi-unit building, are they registering each individual unit on the building or are they registering the entire building?
They should be registering each individual unit.
Okay.
Because of the definition of rental dwelling unit.
Okay. To be honest, I personally think we shouldn't waive it, to be quite honest. But if we're going to, what I would love to see is maybe somebody petition for or request a waiver, as opposed to just saying, oh, well, this is your first time, so no problem.
So what you're suggesting is, as you say, if somebody gets found out or learned, and we do learn about people who don't register because our inspectors are pretty good when they think there's a rental going on, and they'll look it up on Citizen Survey and it'll show them whether it's a registered unit or not and all. That maybe what we have is a way of making it discretionary in terms of whether to waive it for this person, depending on what they say, but not the other person. I have concerns about that because what standards do you use on a case-by-case basis? And does that leave you open to possible discrimination? I'm trying to, and I think the mayor who worked on this too, is trying to set something. We don't care who you are. We don't care why. Theoretically, ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Well, if ignorance of the law is no excuse, then it should just apply to everybody and we shouldn't have a waiver. I mean, I don't.
If they get caught, they can ask for a waiver. I understand what
Right, and or it could be a reduced penalty if it's their first time.
Yeah.
Because I agree that ignorance of the law is no excuse for absconding the law. So I feel like there should be something that happens, because if you have to pay a penalty, even if it's $100, you're going to remember. You're going to remember every single time. You're going to make sure you do it.
Yeah.
I have no problem with a reduced fine or fee. Penalty.
I don't necessarily like I know I feel like it sounds like I'm talking a bunch of different arguments. I'm just trying to find a solution that met the spirit of what was being suggested, even though I don't necessarily like the spirit of what's being suggested. So, to me, the best possible scenario to adhere to the spirit of what's being suggested is reducing the penalty for a first-time offender.
And that gives us the approval to lower it if we needed to or wanted to. No?
I think you're just saying that it would automatically be reduced for only a first time. Correct. Vice Mayor?
Yes. So it could say something like, it's $500 fine plus payment of the registration fee. The penalty shall be lowered to whatever the dollar amount is for a first time offender. Whether that's half or, it could be $250. It could be $150. If you just bought a building, you should be able to afford $250. If you don't, then you shouldn't be owning a rental property.
Saying if you're purchasing a building, you better know the laws and what's going on prior to your purchase.
Right. Not necessarily. It was probably 10 or 12 years ago we had some on North Street where The banks were good about bundling them up, and in order, if he wanted something over here and over up north, when they bundled it, you had to take these two on North Street, or you didn't get the whole package. And a lot of these, and they sat there for years before they tore them down, and they knew what they were doing. So did the bank.
Mhm. And you see that especially with the number of people who own a volume of properties in our city. If you look on, LoopNet or commercial locations, you might see a big bundle of properties being sold at once, either as a result of somebody retiring or somebody having passed away. So I feel like there should be some sort of fine. I think that's the easiest way, because I don't like the idea of somebody trying to skirt this and saying, oh, well, I didn't know, it was my first time.
And they're gonna do that every time, you know. That.
And they could do that on each individual unit if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So
So that was gonna be my next question. You're leading into it. Is it for the first time offender, no matter whatever the penalty is it per the first offense for the offender, or is it per rental unit?
Well,
Use fee penalty per rental unit for the first time offense? Or is it just a reduction in a flat number?
So I feel like the fine should be per rental unit. Now, I think it gets muddy when you start talking about, well, what we're waiving, because that's where it's unclear in terms of, well, it should be per unit or not. So I think the fine should be per unit. What we do for the waiver part, I'm not married to the waiver, so I'm open to something reasonable, but I think the fine should be per unit.
I guess my question is what would you put there? We need a suggestion so we can.
I'm not the one who suggested it originally, so I don't know. That's why I said I'm open to something reasonable. I'm not married to the waiver.
Okay.
What I don't want to happen is someone has their dead mother's home, and now all of a sudden they're hit with a $500 fine because they've never rented property before and they don't have to.
Yeah, but you can do that on case by case.
My question is this waiver for anyone, like someone who has never paid a rental registration fee in the past, or for someone who has as well?
It's not very clear.
It says first-time offender.
But what if they've paid rental registration fees in the past? Is this also a waiver for them?
Good question.
Sure it would be. They're gonna play the game.
May I make a suggestion on this? Let the mayor and I, or Alderwomen Pickering and Teague, come up with clearer language.
By next week?
If they are available, yes, we could do it by next week. But I don't want to commit them to something I don't know their time schedules.
Alderwoman Teague would remove the waiver.
Alderman Teague, what?
Would remove the waiver. So if somebody else wants the waiver, like I said, I'm open to language that makes sense, but obviously it has to address all these ambiguities. Because we spent a great deal of time on this, but we did not talk about waiving anything. That wasn't in the original that we talked about, which is why I can't really form an opinion.
So what's your guys' pleasure? You want to go ahead and let this ordinance sit right here till they can have another look at it and possibly bring it back at city council, because we pretty much discussed it tonight, so.
Chairman, may I make a recommendation, a friendly recommendation for one of you to consider that the sentence, the penalty shall be waived once for a first-time offender, be stricken, and then if we come up with better language, it can be amended at full
There you go.
council.
There you go.
I agree with that.
Does somebody want to make that
Does that
motion
make sense, clerk?
for the change?
So
moved. I make a motion that the sentence concerning the waiving of the fee for the first time offender be stricken.
And I'll second that. Any more questions on this,
On the amendment?
on the amendment?
So what do we do, excuse me, what do we do with the motion that Vice Chairman Pickering made for the other?
Right.
I don't think anyone seconded.
I haven't got a second yet for the
Oh,
amendment to
okay,
amend
so-
She
yeah.
it didn't carry because it wasn't
Okay.
seconded.
I don't know that we asked for a second.
You have to have a second.
I know, I didn't know if we asked for a second. I didn't hear it being asked for a second.
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did.
Because I think what you said was that we were gonna clarify it first before you
Yes.
made the amendment, if I
Yes.
remember correctly. So that way we,
Just that one part?
yes.
Okay, so as far as the amendment for ordinance 163, the paper I handed out, everything would be amended except for 16310A, correct?
So the rewritten ordinance would go forward with only that sentence stricken.
Correct, and, yes.
So it would completely, everything that you all have worked on would go forward with that
Yes.
sentence stricken, and if we come up with something better, then we can make an amendment at the city council meeting. That's correct.
One further note, everything on here except for the very first thing, number 163.02, they are, for the most part, except for the one we've been talking about, typos or, grammar editorials. I would object to having to define the word shall meaning must. And the reason is, in legal parlance, shall is mandatory. It may not be in common usage, but this is a legal document and it would be enforced in city court by our hearing officers and maybe the circuit court. And there's been some back and forth about, well, maybe must is stronger. For those who are grammarians, shall is mandatory in Black's Law Dictionary, but shall also, by grammar gurus, is applicable to a single person, an individual, and must is applicable to two or more persons being individuals, businesses, what have you, and all. I don't think there's a need to define shall as must, because what probably would happen is somebody would say, why do you need to define shall if you mean must? Why don't you just change all the shalls to must? But as I say, shall is a legal term, appears in Black's Law Dictionary, and I can assure you the majority of legal drafters, if not the vast majority, know what shall means and how it should be interpreted. There's always a court or two that will misapply a word, and unfortunately, bad lawyering often makes bad opinions.
So my question is, if we remove number 1 with a shall, and if we remove number 16310, most of the other are just typo errors or that, we still need to amend those or not?
No, Mrs.
You
Reed, those are
probably don't,
administrative.
Okay,
but
so
they
we
needed to be
don't, so we
brought
don't
up
even
here.
need to do that?
Thank
Okay.
you for pointing these out, and we'll.
Okay.
All right, let me just understand, because I get to have the pleasure of further drafting this. It's 163.10, and we're eliminating A.
Correct.
Okay.
No. You're eliminating that one sentence from A, literally.
Yes, correct. The one sentence.
You're only eliminating the sentence that says the penalty shall be waived once for the first time offender.
Correct.
That out of 16.310, you're striking that sentence. That's it.
Correct.
Okay.
So, Madam Clerk, is that clear for your purposes, the amendment? We are from 163.10, we're striking that one sentence.
Correct, I have that, but I didn't get whatever you passed out, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You said the other one was
This is not.
item 1, you're just removing shall.
This is not anything else that we're doing. That was just administrative things that need to be addressed, typos and things like that, so.
Sure. No, I understand.
So I will withdraw my amendment.
So Chairman, I think now you needed a vote on the amendment and then.
I was thinking through it, to see where I was at.
Yes, sir. I think you need a vote on the amendment and then a vote on the ordinance.
That's correct.
Yes, sir.
All right, we have the amendment that was brought to us this evening. We had a motion, and I think we
We had a second.
We had a second. Is there any more discussion on this, on the amendment only? Roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Pickering,
I guess, no, we don't need it, correct?
No,
No, the amendment,
yeah.
you're approving the amendment or not? The amendment that we just
That
made.
strikes
Okay.
the,
Yes.
sorry.
Alderman Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Streaming,
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes. That puts us back to 14A's ordinance amending chapter 163 for Lorena housing registration. We had a motion, we had a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Streaming,
No.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. And legal items of information and your monthly report.
You all have our monthly report, including statistics for December and year-end. As I alluded to earlier, an offer was made on the inspector position. It has been accepted. We had 38 applications, and 4 were invited for first interviews, 4 excellent candidates. I think one of our candidates became the building inspector and Public Works, taking Stephen Crispin's position. So technically, we were down to 3. We invited 3 back for the second interview, and we had a little issue with one of the candidates. We had 2 outstanding candidates, and it was a very difficult decision. We actually graded them, and they came within 0.3 of a grade point difference. So, as I say, we made the offer, but I'm hoping the other candidate applies for one of the rental dwelling inspectors, rental unit inspectors. I guess we're going to call it rental housing inspector. I think he would be excellent. He's got a lot of broad construction experience.
Question, Rick.
Yes.
I don't know what type of, have you had that much of a response on filling those 2 positions in yours and?
We haven't, oh, mine?
I
I'm
mean,
getting to
it's-
that. We've had 5 applicants for the 2 positions, Corporation Counsel and Assistant Corporation Counsel. We are going to be interviewing 4 individuals, and they have pretty good resumes, and we hope to have those interviews done next week.
With a hiring hopeful date of when?
Excuse me?
When do you want out? Be honest.
I don't want out at all, but my wife wants me out. I'm out March 1.
March 1. so
Yeah,
then
and
you're-
I'm going to be out anyway, no matter what, because I'm having full knee replacement surgery, and at my age, I don't know what the recovery is going to be like.
Piece of cake.
Huh?
I've had that too.
Yes, we do, but I got to be able to walk to them.
Well, I didn't know because with the lawyer shortage we have in this county, I didn't know if anybody applied or not. That's why I was.
Yeah, we
Thankfully,
had
we had
one,
some.
we had one lawyer from this county apply.
I don't want to know who it is.
Yeah, I'm not going to identify anyone who's applied.
But we have 3 of the 4 have municipal experience, so with being corporation counsel or advisor of some level to cities. So I think we should be in good shape. And our hope, Alderman Cooper, is to hire at least the corporation counsel such time that he or she will have a couple of weeks to work with Jim, so that before in the transition. So I'll hopefully be bringing that to you within the next couple of weeks.
Just so you know, one thing I'm doing is as I do work or realize that I'm not going to be able to finish work, I've started compiling a list of things that individual will have to address in the relatively early term when they start. And I've also organized my computer and the files on the computer, because I do everything on my computer, with pretty comprehensive filing system. And at some point, I'm going to lean on Agnel to be able to take screenshots of the folders so I can provide those, so they'll have a good idea where to locate things. I've also done a lot of templates for repetitive things. So if I have the time to work with somebody, and I hope we get somebody quickly, they're not going to know Danville. I mean, some people, you know, the one will know Danville, but they're not going to know our corporation counsel and what I've done until I tell them. But I hope to have plenty of time to work with them, which means I won't have the time to get certain things done that I'd want to get done, because I think the transition is far more important.
Is there any other questions for Mr. Simon? Well, thank you, and thank you, sir, for sending that report that I requested last week.
You are welcome.
Thank you. Puts us item number 15. Police, Chris Yates, Police Chief, we have the resolution authorizing the purchase of a police department vehicle and disposable of an unused vehicle. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I will need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on this resolution? Not, roll call, please.
Alderman Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Streving,
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. Puts us to 15B and B1 and 2, items of information, November 2023 and December 23 offense data and 2023 year-to-date offense data. Chief?
Anybody have any questions on the data that we sent out? Okay, we'll be preparing a year-end report. It'll be much more detailed. I'll have a lot more things on it. We're hoping to have it done by next public services. We'll do our best.
Excuse me, Chief, could you lower your mic?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, sorry. We have 4 officer candidates at the PTI right now. We have 3 that are in early phases of field training. We have 1 that's getting ready to get out of field training, upon successful completion of the final shadow phase. We'll be at full strength, I believe, as far as officers go on patrol. So we're looking forward to having all the others through training and to their permanent assignments. Alderman Cooper, forgot to add, if I can go back to the earlier conversation, is we actually, on a lateral transfer, we do consider their experience as an asset. So they would forego the earlier steps of pay while in training. And once they got out on their own, they would start out as the salary of a non-probationary officer, but they're still on probation for 18 months like anyone else would. So there is some. We are trying to draw them, but historically there's issues, or not been issues, it's just inconsistent. The DCO grant, it's moving along really well. We had a meeting yesterday. Kaylee Sanchez, who's a grants coordinator, manager, and Josh Campbell, administrations division manager, and I met. We're right on pace. Things are moving along at the Police Community Training Center. We've had some work at Friendly Town, however, a lot of it's being delayed until the weather changes.
Any
other
questions?
questions?
Chief? Yes.
Your new analyst position, will they also, first of all, thank you for the lengthy conversation that we had about it, because I'm definitely on board for the analyst, and I think it's going to be a great change for our community.
Yeah.
My question is, will they also look at report data and like make correlations or anything like that?
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. I can bring you, like what we bring to you every month. It's raw data, and you're drawing a conclusion based off a bar, you know, a bar chart or and looking at it, is it greater than last year? But it doesn't dive into the whys and how's it affected and all the other variables that are involved. And, you know, we're not drawing any correlations other than what we have in our mind and what seems to be logical. We want to match logical with data-supported figures. And it goes well beyond that, but that's one part of what they'll be doing. I mean, this affects resource allocation. It affects patrol assignments. You know, how we separate areas for the most effective response. So it goes way beyond it. So I think we're going to be seeing things. We can understand what we've been taught that we need to, what these positions do. But I think once we get someone in that position, we choose the right person. We may uncover several tools that will be assets to our department, our community.
I think I let you know that too, Chief, when you talked to me about it. And due to the fact that it's not changing the budget in any way, shape, or form, that's why I told you. I thought they would be on board with it, so.
But, you know, like I said, I don't want to come back to you and you say, hey, a year later, you know, last year you said this. No, I will. I mean, if the money's in the budget, I'll be asking for that, a standalone as a position. But we can't even get that officer hired, training on the street in that amount of time. But yeah, I'm quite certain I'll be asking.
Oh, boy, thanks.
I just don't want to.
Yeah, okay.
Call a liar.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Puts us item number 16. We got Public Works, Carl Clark, the directors here. We have a 16A, a resolution approving the amendment to the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Danville and the Laborers International Union of North America, the Southern and Central Illinois Laborers District Council, and Laborers Local 703. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I will need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on this resolution?
Are we doing this for a specific individual? Is that what I gathered? Or-
No, this is a position of city plumber.
That for that position?
Yeah, it's just a position. We don't have anybody hired for it yet.
Okay, but that's what this is for, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
good enough.
It adds them to the current contract.
That's what we discussed a little bit earlier about
Yeah.
the budget and
Yeah.
trying to get it all put in there. Any other questions? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes?
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. The motion carries. Puts us 16B. We have a resolution approving the purchase of a sewer vector truck. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I will need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on this resolution? I will say, Carl, thanks, and I'm glad that we done things like we did 2 years back so that we don't have to worry about where this is coming from, so.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank you, Alderman Streebing, Chairman, for allowing this to come to this committee, and Alderman Poor as well.
No, we don't usually have any problems.
All right, well, we still want to express our thanks. Thank you.
And if no questions, let's have a roll call on this resolution.
Alderman York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, the motion carries. Puts us to 16C. We have a resolution authorizing payment for emergency sanitary sewer cured in place pipelining and manhole rehabilitation within South Danville. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I will need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on this resolution?
This all relates to that one project we had down there I'm at, yeah.
Yep. If not, no other questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, the motion carries. Puts us 16D. We have an ordinance approving the purchase of real estate for community improvement and amending the FY 2023 through 24 Fund 107 budget. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I will need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on this ordinance? John, you have something?
Yeah, what are we doing here? I mean, this,
So we are, acquiring several properties from two different owners. I would say the location reflects kind of some of our purchases related to the West William Street project that's upcoming and just general changes we're hoping to promote in that, that neighborhood over the coming years, I guess, so.
okay.
Any other questions?
Okay. Yeah.
Not roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Pickering,
Yes.
Alderman Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Streving,
Yes.
7 yes.
Yes, the motion carries. Puts us to items of information. Does anybody have any items of information? I know we won't meet until February, probably the 5th. Next week is
February the 6th, it's on my
February
birthday.
6th. Cake for everybody?
What's next week?
All right.
Chairman, I just would like to thank the Public Works team for all their diligence over the last week or so with the
I'd
water
reckon.
and this and
I'd
the
reckon.
ice. They've done a good job of keeping us moving, so appreciate you guys.
Puts us item number 17. I don't believe there's any need for closed session this evening. And items of information from anybody?
One quick item, Chairman, if I will. I just want to make sure that I put this on your radar. So Chief Marcotte has talked to me for some time now about the need for.
No, I don't want to hear it till I actually see that truck. He's promised now for almost 8 months, so I don't want to hear it.
Okay.
Just teasing.
As you all know, we have need for additional inspections in our community. That's something that it's been behind on for a long time. We're not there yet, but at some point I will be coming to you requesting that if our budget performance is better than projected, sometime within the next 6 months to ask for an inspector position in the fire department.
That will put us at how many?
We have 0 in the fire department currently. We have,
But will they be considered an actual fireman or what?
no, they would be a civilian. It would be a civilian position. So I just want to put that on your radar.
I even asked. Thanks. And with taking care of everything we have on the agenda tonight, 19 is adjournment. I'll need a motion to adjourn and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. The ayes have it. We are adjourned. Yep.
I couldn't figure out what in the world I'm voting on.